Hey everyone, it's Mike with It's Pittsfield Tonight. I'm going to jump right into it, and I'm going to start with a post I put up a few days ago, and that post was regarding the funding that just came in from the federal government to the city of Pittsfield. And the exact post was, or is, I put, Pittsfield, Mass. Will receive roughly $33 million under the Federal American Rescue Plan Act. According to Congressman Neal, how the money is spent will be the decision of Mayor Tyer. Under the Rescue Act, the city will have until 2024 to spend the funds. What do you think the best use for these funds would be? And it got a really good response. It got about, 100 comments or so. And I think, one of the odd things was, the thing that stood out to me the most was roads. That was the number one thing, was our roads on there. And that is an issue. And I know a portion of these funds is to be used for, rescuing businesses to prevent them from failing. People that have, I guess, fallen behind on mortgages and are facing bankruptcy due to things that are not their own fault, from losing income due to the pandemic. So there is a variety of uses for it. But roads is an issue, and I have to agree with that, because it's not just like some aesthetic inconvenience, like people don't like the way it looks. It's a problem. And it seems like the past few years we've been patching on top of patches on top of patches, and it causes a ton of damage to vehicles. And I've lost a couple wheels on some potholes that I could not help but hit, and one of them I didn't see. It was night and I didn't see it. It wasn't a lit road, and that thing was, it was a crater. But anyways, so that was on there. And I'm sure there are stipulations to the uses of this money. I know it's pretty open. There's a lot of things that can be done. Another thing that was mentioned a lot was homelessness in the city, which is an issue. And the mayor did mention that also. But that's something I think is incredibly important. And that needs to be addressed correctly. And really, that's going to take transitional supportive housing and permanent supportive housing. So what we saw last year at Springside Park, we never see again. That was horrible. And really, that the light needed to be shined on that issue in the city. It's been an ongoing issue that has been growing and growing and growing. And rather than fueling people to be angry and taking it out the wrong way because they're just frustrated at the amount of people panhandling and all that, it needs to be addressed. And I do think the mayor is saying that, she gets that maybe, she didn't completely understand this in the past, but she's learned a lot over the past year. And I hope that she does move forward with that, and I support any decision she does on that to really get transitional supportive housing and permanent supportive housing where we need it. Housing's an issue in the city of Pittsfield. Home values are skyrocketing. That's why I keep going back to these council elections and why they're so important this year, because this is a time of change in the city of Pittsfield. Due to the pandemic, we've seen an influx in people from New York City and other areas. The real estate market here has exploded. Home values are up over 33%. There's a ton of investment taking place in the community. You look at what Milltown Capital is doing with Bosque and Berkshire West and the former Lakeside Christian Camp and the Pontuzic Country Club or golf course, whatever. I mean, they're making huge investments. They've bought a lot of residential properties. Now is a time, with the growth and what we're seeing in this community, that the right people at the helm on that city council is crucial. The right people representing the constituents is crucial, because the decisions we make now will affect us for a few generations, and it can be good or it can be bad. But this could be a very good time for Pittsfield, that we could come out on the other side of this pandemic with good things. I mean, we're seeing it here. So please pay attention. Please run for the council, but definitely vote. I'll call this a midterm year because there's no mayor on the ticket. And the last time that happened in 2017, I think it was 20% voter turnout. We can't let that happen. If you don't want to run, vote. Vote, please. It takes a couple of minutes of your time. Vote. You don't have to dig a hole. You don't have to buy a shovel. You don't have to fly anywhere. Vote. But anyway, the wastewater treatment plant, that's another one that's being talked about again. It needs to be. Now, this was confusing. It sounds like they're asking for additional funds. I don't get this. As many people know, roughly 18 months ago, during the last mayoral election, then at-large Councilor Melissa Mazzio was running for mayor. The wastewater treatment plant was a big issue because the taxpayers and the residents know that their water bills have increased like 50% or more. And this is based off of the $74 million price tag to redo the wastewater treatment plant. And that's just one project. But then during the election, during the last debate, Mayor Tyer says, and this was after the billing kicked in, great news. I've got it down to a cost of $50 million. She wins the election. 6-7 months go by, however long it was, and this comes up again at the council. Councilor Connell and Morandi want to know, well, we billed for $74 million. Mayor Tyer saying it's $50 million. What happened to $24 million that the people are paying for? And then our finance director said, well, that's not really the case. It turns out it's really more like $60 to $64 million, so not $50 million. So that means it's really just a difference of only $10 to $14 million. It's not that much. Which I thought, well, thank God he's not the one receiving the first payment of this $33 million. Because I think the first check is $16 million. So if Congressman Neal himself was bringing that to, say, our finance director, Matt Kerwood, he'd say $16 million. It's not that much. But anyway, that really did happen where he said 10 to 14 million was not that much. Now it seems like I'm going to try to word this without rehashing the past election, but Councilor Mazzio was right on this because she kept saying, well, how can we spend the $74 million when we don't even know what these new regulations are going to be? We haven't finished the work on finding everything out. And there was too many consulting firms and all this confusion. Well, it turns out now Ricardo Morales, head of DPW, he seems to be head of everything. I don't know what all his titles are. But he's head of the wastewater treatment plant too. And he's saying it looks like we need more, like they want another more, 8 million more or something, I don't know, for other upgrades that we didn't know we have to meet. I have no idea what they're talking about now, but it went from it down to 50 million, now that's going to end up being 80-something million, I don't know. The whole thing is very confusing. I hope that gets explained. We need to pay attention to that. I have to mention this with Councilor Person. I have to, because he seems like, not only has he been grumpy and angry, this is worth noting to me. So at the beginning of every council meeting, after the public speaking, they try to get out of the way in the beginning the appointments. And they're usually pretty standard. And those are people that volunteer and the mayor appoints to a board or a commission. And on this one, it was, the city clerk said to the council, the Honorable Mayor Tyer is asking for your approval to appoint Edward Carmel to, I think it was a board or commission on housing. And many of you know Ed. He used to be the chair of the Commission on Homelessness. He's still on that commission. And Ed can be very rough around the edges at times. He really can. But if you look at his story, I mean, he was in homelessness himself. He got out of it. And rather than just taking care of himself, he decided he wanted to give back and help others. And it's very important to him. Again, he can be very harsh and rough around the edges, but he means well. And I applaud the mayor for working with him. So, again, these appointments, the council, they're standard, usually. Excuse me. Where the council will approve. I mean, there's usually no issue there. But Councilor Persip does not like Ed Carmel. So even on this, it got to him for a vote, and all the councilors voted yes, and he said no. Nope. And it stood out to me. I'm like, God, he does take this personal. It's very, very personal. And that's too bad. It shouldn't be. In the private sector, you can take things personal. In government seats, your decisions affect everybody. So you can't take it personal. Unless it is personal. And I don't think it is with anybody. Not with Ed Carmel, not with myself. I don't know. So anyway, I can't speak for anybody other than myself, but I don't have a personal problem with anyone on our council. Any of them. Anybody. Not the mayor, not anyone on the council, not anyone. It's politics. That's how it goes, man. It's got to be an open book for everybody because it affects everybody. So anyway, I had to mention that. New York did legalize weed. That's something we're going to have to talk about because when that kicks in, that's greatly going to take away from all the money they were counting here in Pittsfield. Go to these marijuana stores, and majority of the vehicles are New York tags. But anyway, that's going to be something that I definitely want to talk about. I think we're going to see it legalized on a federal level. For the consumer, it's going to be great. You'll be able to get a zip, an ounce of weed for $50 probably of high quality stuff because unlike alcohol, marijuana is a whole different game, and that market is going to be flooded, and it'll drive the price way down. I don't think all the gazillions of dollars everybody hoped would be there will. So I had to mention that, and we'll have to watch that as that unfolds and see what happens in Columbia County over the mountain in New York, and see how that affects us here in Pittsfield. One last thing I have to mention. So I was watching. I always flick through community television. I support community television big time. I think it's a great format, no matter where you live, and an important one. So I was flicking through the channels a week or so ago, and there was a show on there by I think channel 1301, one of the public access channels, and it was Mr. Curley, Fran Curley, and the name of the show was Your Italian and Irish Heritage, and it was a local Pittsfield show. And I know Mr. Curley, I had him for a teacher. So I stopped and watched it, and he said his special guest for that episode was Mayor Linda Tyer, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. So Mayor Linda Tyer is talking about her Italian heritage here in the community, and she has roots here that do go back a couple generations on that side, and it was pretty interesting, and she was very versed in that side of her family, and like a lot of people in the community, she had roots back in Sicily, and then she talked about her Irish side, and I'm also half Irish. So I was looking at probably Facebook or whatever on my iPad, and as this was playing on TV, and I'm listening, and I hear her mention some family names. She said she was still doing some research to discover a lot more about her Irish side of the family. And I heard the names, I think Flaherty and Casey and Roddy, and my head popped up because I started hearing names that I knew in my family. So I was like, what's going on here? So to make a long story as long as it is, it looks like, and I have to do a little more research, that Linda Tyer and I are cousins. So I'm going to have to find out a little bit more, but I'm pretty sure on this one because of the name she mentioned. And even when she was mentioning the Roddy family, my family, my grandmother and grandfather lived on Gale Avenue right next to the Roddys, up on that side of Gale Avenue, near Roddy's farm, and was very close with the family. And my grandmother's brother married a Casey who was also right there. Anyway, it was a lot of the exact same families, same names, same people. Not just same names, same people. So, Cousin Linda. It's me, Cousin Mike. I'm not positive, but it looks like Mayor Tyer could be my cousin. So that made me laugh. And didn't surprise me, though. I mean, my family's been here for a few generations, and she has roots here going back, and it's a small community, so, it didn't really surprise me. But I found it amusing. Maybe me and Barry, during the holidays, will I'll be invited to the get-togethers, and me and Barry will be in the back music room, and he must have a music room, sipping on some cognac, roasting some chestnuts on an open fire, listening to some Tool and some Slayer, just some good family times. So anyway, that's that. I had to mention that. So that is it for now. Please, everyone, pay attention. Run for office. Run for office. Really. But vote if you're not going to run. But pay attention. This is an important year for us in Pittsfield. So that's it for now. Enjoy the weather. Spring's on its way, and I'll catch you all in the next day or two.